What's going on? Sorry I haven't posted a video or whatever, but just gonna come back. Just want to talk about like the most overused argument, I guess, against God or against God existence, which is it's always well, if God exists, then why would he let all that happen? Let these bad things happen or whatever. And it's like that's like their main issue with believing in God, is like him letting these things happen on earth and stuff. So think about it, right? So what you're saying is, if you ask like said person, like, all right, I know that's an emotional way to think of it. I couldn't logically like tell you why, you know what I mean? Like that's a emotional thing at the end of the day. Like, that wouldn't be something we would know, like when it comes to like exactly why, the reason he's doing it, like we wouldn't necessarily know. So it's more of an emotional thing. So if you ask them, well, if I were to prove to you logically that God does exist, would you then say yes, that God does exist, or would you still need that emotional part or the reason why to be answered first, and then you would accept? And if they were to say the following, as if like yes, like I would need to know why, that emotionally, or no, that I wouldn't say it because I would still need to know the answer to the first question. So essentially what they're saying is, even if I can logically tell you that God exists, and I can break it down and show you here, this is the necessity, bang, I show you that God exists, you still wouldn't accept it. So if I don't know, if I show you my backyard, or I'm telling you my backyard that there's like a cube out there, right? And your reason why you don't think there's like a cube out there is like, why would the cube be there? Why is he over there? Why would the cube be there? And that wouldn't be the reason. And I showed you that there was a cube there, but you're still emotionally tied to exactly why the cube is there, what the cube is doing, like why is he doing what he's doing. I'm showing you that there's a cube there, so you still deny that cube is there. You know what I mean? Like that, I feel like that ends up just kind of working backwards, simply because like I just logically showed you that God exists, and you didn't necessarily deny it, and you only did because of that first emotional part, which would then, and I guess an answer I would give for that, like if you were to just, not that whole thing, it's more just the things that happen mostly to humans, besides like natural disasters, usually results because of other people, right? God gave us, free will, and free will is to, you're not tied to any way of, you kind of just do what you will, like you can kind of just do anything, you know what I mean? Not, obviously you can't do anything, but you know what I mean? Like whatever you put your mind to, you could probably end up doing, you know what I mean? We have that. And so it would end up being just something of our fault, that's not going to be necessarily on God. Like that's because, humans did certain things and blah, 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 and it ended up resulting in that. And that's not, you can't like blame God for that. And even if you're gonna blame God for all the bad, you gotta give him glory for all the good. You can't just, you know what I mean? Like, people tend to fixate on bad things that happen in their life, and all these crazy things happening in the world, and they forget to appreciate certain things, that you got a roof over your head, you get to eat every day, these little things, and they may seem trivial, but they're not, because mostly not a lot of people even got that shit. No one's got just food readily available, money readily available, and it's just these little things that are good, and even good things that are past the little things, you know what I mean, like getting a raise, or getting like a wife, or just those good things that happen. It's like that on top of those as well, and people tend to not fixate and appreciate the little things and focus on the bad and negative things, because it's just easier. It's easier to look at the negative stuff, because it's definitely easy. It's easier to put someone down than it is to bring them up, because if you're already down and they're up, you know what it feels like to be down. So you're already there. Like, you know what I mean? So you can bring them down easy. But if you're down and trying to bring somebody up, it takes a little bit of, because at the same time, it's like you don't know what you're talking about, but you still want to support them. So in that sense, it's a little harder, but it's definitely easier to bring someone down, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, just, the concept of God, it's like, reason I believe God exists is simply by necessity. Like, he needs to be there to exist. And, like, I can see why people get confused on the fact, like, well, if God is there, then how is he there? Like, how did he get created? And then if something created that, then what created that before? And the thing is that you can't even have that. Even if God were to be created, you can't have something that goes back that many times, like infinite regress. Because if you keep going back, and the infinitely keeps going back, and they need to be dependent on that, and on that, and on that, and on that, it's going to take an infinite amount of time to even happen. And if I put, I don't know, if I put some food on a stove with a pan, and it's going to take an infinite amount of time to cook, will it ever cook? It's not going to cook. If it takes an infinite amount of time to happen, then it will never happen. So essentially, it needs to be created, and it needs to be created by something that isn't dependent, that is knowledgeable, that is all-powerful. And then it needs to be something that's uncreated, that isn't bound by anything. It's uncreated. So he's been here the whole time, and he never wasn't. I'll say it again. He always has been here, but he never wasn't, right? Because he has to be there. Like, if you're going to consider that God exists, even anyways, that concept is going to be that he has to be there uncreated, because there's no other way. That would be it. And when you start looking into, like, how did the Big Bang happen in this, the only way it can really be explained is because God. It's either by chance, it's either by chance, by nothing, or something. So it's either you believe nothing created the universe, or you believe something created the universe. And I believe something did create the universe. Something that's independent, isn't bound by space, time, or matter. And it's just... And then you would have to think, like, everything that has a design, which we have a design, obviously, like facial features, all these anyways, there needs to be a purpose for it, because anything that you buy, right? Let's say you go to buy like a new controller or something, it's always going to come with a manual, right? Because if you never had the controller before, and you don't even necessarily know how to work it, and this is like your first time, then how are you going to learn how to work it? You're going to need a manual. And it goes for everything. So if these little things that are made by man can have design and purpose and a manual for it, then why can't we? We're way more complex than a Xbox controller is. We're way more advanced than a camera is. Of course, a camera can zoom in, but I mean, how are you gonna view the camera without eyes? And the eyes are more like, you can see things very, very clearly. Like, you don't have like 1080p for your fucking your eyes. It's always this. So if those little things can have design and purpose in a manual, then why can't we have a purpose and design in a manual? And I would think that is, scripture, which I believe Islam to be the last revelation, that's just what it is. It's the last revelation out of all of them that were put out, because every time a revelation was put out, it was simply because people strayed away from what the original message was. That's the whole point of him sending down multiple, because he would have just sent down one and said, all right, figure it out, right? No, he kept sending them down up until that point, which was Islam, and he protected Islam simply because it was his last revelation, and he needed that one. And that's when people get to choose, like, all right, am I going to just deny this, or am I going to accept it? And then you do your research, but yada yada, find out that it is the truth. And do your own research, don't just take people's words for it or whatever. Take knowledgeable people's word for it, and then look into there, and you guys will figure it out, man. Just I don't know. Islam makes the most sense. and God makes sense to believe. I'd rather believe in God, figure out that I'd rather believe in God, die, and figure out that there isn't, than not believe in God and die and figure out that there is. So, yeah, I'll see y'all.